I think it's pretty clear they are. And now I've decided I'm all in on the Cowboys franchising him and shopping him and seeing what the return could be. I thought of this when the Michael Irvin stuff first came up, and I started thinking about what the real possibilities
Michael
were.
Irvin suggesting
talking about they could move on from Dak and sign Brady, however far-fetched that was. It just got the wheels turning in my brain. And I thought about the fact that Jalen Ramsey was traded for 2 1s and a 4. Frank Clark, who's good but not great, was traded for a 1 and a 2. Laramie Tunsil was traded for 2 1s and a 2. That's all in the last 10 months in this league. The NFL, which has been very late compared to the other sports and getting in late to the party on getting in on these massive blockbuster trades, the last year, it's kind of started with the Khalil Mack trade a few years ago, and now we're seeing a lot more of it of star-level players being traded for enormous return. And I do wonder if you're Dallas, in a quarterback marketplace where there are capable, not great, but capable quarterbacks available, either via trade like Cam or Dalton on very affordable contracts or via free agency, such as Teddy Bridgewater or one of the older quarterbacks, Rivers, who I'm not a huge fan of, or Brady, you guys know where I stand. If you could get from the Chargers the 6th pick of the draft and their first rounder next year and like a 3rd rounder, if you could get what the Jags were able to get for Jalen Ramsey and save all that cap space, is that not better than paying Dak $38 million a year? To me, it would be. And if not, if once you franchise tag him, Canty, that market isn't there, then you make him play under the franchise tag. But my last resort, and the one I would not engage in, is paying Dak Prescott like he's the best quarterback in football, because he's far from it.
Well, I think you have to start with trying to answer the question, is he our franchise quarterback or not? And if you're answering that question with an affirmative, then you have to take the option that you're suggesting completely off the table. Like, that's a non-starter. You usually don't see, well, let me rephrase that. You never see franchise quarterbacks in their prime get traded. I think the last guy that was in his prime that changed teams, you probably have to go back to Jay Cutler when he left from Denver to go to Chicago. And I think there were 2 first-round draft picks in that trade going back to the Broncos. So, I mean, I think we all look at that and say it didn't really work out for either team in that situation. But with Dak Prescott, this is a matter of just timing, because you're trying to compete for a championship. Your roster is constructed to go now. I don't think that Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy envision a quarterback change, because I do think that that would disrupt and derail your Super Bowl aspirations. I don't see that as really being an option. I have to try to figure out a way to be able to leverage the franchise tag in order to make the number on a long-term extension that much more palatable, because there still is some risk that Dak Prescott would incur if he's going out there on a 1-year proposition. And you have to just try to see what is it that we can do to try to come to some middle ground. But I think Dak Prescott not being your quarterback should not be on the table.
And don't forget, they went through all this to get Mike McCarthy there, who's supposed to be so great at the quarterback guru working with quarterbacks. Now the position is kind of up in the air.
Well, the one thing you have to worry about is if you do franchise Dak Prescott, is he going to show up for minicamp? Is he going to show up on time for training camp? Because you're trying to install a new offense with Mike McCarthy and some tweaks to Kellen Moore's system. So I think that there's a lot of moving parts. And the other aspect of this is franchise tagging Dak. What does that do in terms of my flexibility to work out some other deals?
Because you can't, because all the cap hit comes immediately that year. You can't prorate it to later years, anything like that.
Would Brady give the Cowboys, though, a better chance at a Super Bowl than Dak Prescott would?
Not to not answer your question. I just want to say, I love Mike. But this is shame on all of us. Mike prefaced his initial comments. He literally said, I set my cranberry and vodka down when I heard it. So he told us the scenario in which he heard it. Drinking at a Super Bowl party, and now we're like, Michael Irvin's got sources. So we all probably overreacted to this initially. But now to answer your question, I wouldn't give Dak Prescott some top-of-the-market extension. But Dak Prescott right now, and I've been a bit of a critic of his, is obviously better than Tom Brady. Dak Prescott, if they were 2 players for 1 year on the same exact contract, Dak Prescott, even in that scenario, gives the Patriots a better chance to win. I'm sorry, gives the Cowboys a better chance to win than Tom Brady would. Right, that would be. Now, with that said, I do think if both of these teams were available for Tom, I do think the Cowboys give him a better chance to win than the Patriots. They have the offensive line, they have the running back, they have a #1 receiver. So I think the Cowboys are better situated for either quarterback. But if they could have either quarterback at the same price, even without even projecting the years out, where Dak's got another decade to play and Tom maybe has 1 or 2 more years, I'd still, in just 2020 alone, rather have Dak Prescott, because he's coming off arguably, and he's a flawed player, but he's coming off arguably, or an imperfect player, I should say, the best year of his career, while Brady's coming off arguably the worst year he's had in nearly 20 years. So, to me, Dak is the clear-cut answer.
Well, you're saying he had the best year of his career from a passing metric standpoint, but he had the lowest win total of his career. So, I mean, I don't necessarily look at the production in the passing game equating to the results that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones are looking for. But when you're looking at both of the quarterbacks, I'm not ready to say that Dak is already better than Tom Brady. But what I am willing to say is, when you're talking about a contract for both of these players, I think you give a better chance of having the return on investment that you're looking for with Dak, because I do believe that you're talking about an ascending player as opposed to Tom Brady, who is a declining player. And Jerry Jones, if he really thought that Tom Brady was going to be an option this offseason, if you know you're going to make a head coaching change, then you probably would have looked at potentially going down the road of Josh McDaniels as opposed to hiring Mike McCarthy. So I got to be all the way out on the rumors that are connecting Tom Brady to the Dallas Cowboys. I just don't see that happening.
Let me ask you a question, though. Let's just, for the sake of argument, let's say Dak and the Cowboys cannot come to terms on a deal, so it would be a 1-year franchise tag at $27 million. Let's say they also hear from Tom Brady's agent, I think it's Don Yee, he would accept 1 year, $27 million. If you could have either of these players for 1 year at the exact same contract for the Dallas Cowboys, who do you think next year would be better for them?
I would say Dak Prescott, because you know if you move off of Dak Prescott and go to Tom Brady, you're not going to be able to have Dak Prescott as an option down the road. You know that's not going to happen.
So it's more about the future.
It's about the longevity of it. You have to give yourself as many cracks at it as you possibly can. And with the contracts and the players that the Cowboys already have locked up, it makes sense to go down the road with a long-term extension with Dak eventually, as opposed to going with Tom Brady for a 1 or 2 year proposition. To me, that makes all the sense in the world. I'm not going to go with a 43-year-old quarterback when I have a 26-year-old quarterback that seems like he's on the uptick, and he had a top 8 to 10 year in terms of the quarterbacks in the National Football League. So it doesn't make any sense to try to go down the road of Tom Brady. I just don't see Jerry and Stephen doing that.
Come on, Jerry. You know what you want to do. Remove the Chargers as an option for Brady. Trade Dak to the Chargers for a bunch of first-round picks. You have an void at quarterback. You have all these picks. You have cap space. Bring Tom in. It'd make all of our lives amazing.
When you brought that up in the morning meeting, I was like, that's ridiculous. He's never going to.
It's a little ridiculous,
not really,
but it's interesting.
If Jerry Jones wanted Dak so badly, he could have been signed 27 different times at a much cheaper price point than he's probably going to command right now, and he still hasn't pulled the trigger
Dak
to do
fetches you a bunch of first-round picks. You slide Brady in there, try to go win a Super Bowl. It's at least interesting to consider.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.